Buckle up, because this isn't rumor, and it's definitely not tabloid chatter. This comes straight from the palace, the beating heart of the British monarchy, finally breaking its silence after years of calculated restraint. For ages, people whispered about Harry and Meghan's children, Archie and Lilibet. Were they truly royal heirs? Why were they absent from the public eye while William and Kate's children grew up before the cameras? Questions multiplied. Rumors festered. But Buckingham Palace said nothing. Until now. And when the crown finally moved, it didn't do it with words.no interviews. No soft press statements. Just the coldest tool in its arsenal, paperwork, official, legal, constitutional documents carrying the full force of royal authority, quiet, final, and irreversible. Sources close to the palace confirm the documents are already prepared. These aren't cautionary notes or warnings. They are final orders that will permanently redefine Archie and Lilibet's royal status. The message is sharp, almost cruel in its simplicity. Their royal claim is over. This isn't about family drama or personal grudges, but about protocol, the monarchy's ancient, unbending law. And to understand how the crown reached this point, we have to rewind the clock more than a century to the moment when those laws were written in stone. The year was 1917. Europe was burning in war, and the royal family faced a storm of confusion, politics, and threats from within. That's when King George V made his move, issuing a royal decree known as a letters patent. They weren't emotional pleas or poetic speeches. They were crisp, calculated lines of law, and hidden within those lines are the rules that would define who is and who is not royal for the next 100 years. The letters patent were crystal clear, a royal roadmap that decided exactly who could bear the titles of prince or princess. No emotion. No loopholes. Just rules carved in tradition. First, the child must descend from legitimate royal blood. Second, the birth must be officially recognized and recorded by the crown itself. And third, there had to be a formal tie to the Church of England. No shortcuts. No exceptions. For more than a century, those conditions safeguarded the monarchy. They kept the line pure, the titles rare, and the hierarchy intact. But when the palace reviewed Archie and Lilibet's records, that ancient rulebook revealed a troubling pattern. On paper, things didn't quite align. Birth records, baptism details, and even the church connection all carried quiet inconsistencies that couldn't simply be ignored. And that's when it became clear. The issue didn't start today. That IT began the very moment they were born. The clock was always ticking. And now, the gears of royal protocol have finally turned. Because as the saying goes, no secret stays buried forever, not even behind palace walls or PR smiles. And this time, those walls are starting to tremble. Insiders now claim the woman long kept out of sight, the surrogate who allegedly carried Harry and Meghan's youngest child, has begun to speak. She was never meant to be seen, never meant to be heard. But her words are shaking Montecito to its core. According to sources, what she's revealing has left Meghan in quiet panic. Because if even part of her account is true, it could answer one of the biggest and most dangerous questions surrounding the Sussex saga, and it's not an answer Meghan wants the world to hear. The surrogate allegedly claims that Prince Harry may not be the biological father of Lilibet Diana. Behind the polished interviews and curated photos, a darker story seems to be surfacing, one woven with sealed documents, hidden transfers, and suspicions the royal family has privately held for years. And now, as whispers evolve into testimonies, Meghan's biggest fear isn't exposure, that it's losing control of the narrative, because this time, the story might not belong to her at all. Sources close to the situation say what finally shattered the silence wasn't guilt, it was money. According to insiders, the surrogate never received a final payment. The amount was quietly buried under what one source called creative accounting, disguised as charitable donations and business expenses routed through a California-based foundation. Behind the scenes, Meghan's legal team allegedly scrambled to conceal the trail. Her name couldn't be linked to any form of surrogate compensation, not when the royal image depended on the illusion of a natural, traditional birth. But the woman they were dealing with wasn't naive. She allegedly kept everything, messages, receipts, and even recorded calls from a member of Meghan's legal circle warning her to let it go. For a while, she stayed silent. Until now, those close to her say she's preparing to step forward, not for attention, but for justice. She doesn't want fame. She wants what she was promised. And apparently, she's not the only one. Other quiet voices connected to Meghan's past business ventures have begun to notice a familiar pattern. Project that vanish, payments that never clear, and airtight NDAs used to keep people quiet, though if these claims hold even a grain of truth, they suggest Meghan didn't just shape her story. She controlled everyone inside it. And here's where things start to twist. Remember Harry's memoir, Spare? In it, Harry wrote that Meghan had 2 epidurals at the hospital. He also claimed she gave birth, recovered, and returned to Frogmore Cottage within 2 hours. But here's the catch. The drive from Portland Hospital to Frogmore alone takes nearly an hour on a clear day. That leaves just 60 minutes for labor, recovery, observation, discharge, and travel. Mathematically, it doesn't add up. And inside royal circles, that single inconsistency is now fueling an even bigger question. What really happened the day Lilibet was born? Add 2 epidurals into that same short window, and the story doesn't just wobble, it collapses entirely. Because anyone who's ever gone through it knows, after an epidural, you can't walk, you don't leave. You wait for the anesthesia to fade, for your vitals to steady, for your blood pressure to normalize. That alone can take hours. And that's under perfect conditions. If, as some medical insiders quietly claim, Meghan showed signs of high blood pressure or even early preeclampsia, there's no chance she would have been discharged at all. That's not opinion. That's hospital protocol. That's the kind of timeline that belongs in a fairy tale, not a medical chart. Yet that's a version the world was told, clean, curated, and wrapped in royal polish. That's also the moment, sources say, when the story stopped being about medicine and started being about management. Every verified medical guideline points to one undeniable fact. Meghan's pregnancy was geriatric, the clinical term for expectant mothers over 35. It's not an insult. It's a medical classification. The IT means more monitoring, fewer risks, and constant supervision. So when Harry described their birth setup, birthing balls, candles, soft music, a wellness retreat vibe, doctors everywhere raise eyebrows, because that's not how high-risk births are managed. Not in any London hospital. According to one hospital insider, Portland Hospital doesn't host spa-style birth for flag pregnancies. No mood lighting, no scented oils, no water tubs. Not when the patient's chart demand continuous obstetric monitoring. That's not harshness. It's protocol. And then came the detail that made the whole story unravel, preeclampsia. For anyone who's lived through it, the treatment isn't soft music and candles. It's magnesium sulfate for drips and around-the-clock care. So if Meghan truly suffered from that condition, as some reports suggest, her supposed 2-hour turnaround from delivery to discharge isn't just unlikely, that it's medically impossible. 4 years, Meghan and Harry built their image as royal rebels, the couple who walked away, spoke out, and told their story on their own terms. Every interview, every deal, every headline only strengthened that image. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. You can only be a rebel if the crown still claims you. The monarchy understood that perfectly. That's why it never shouted across the Atlantic. It never traded blows with Netflix specials or talk shows. It simply waited, silent, patient, and strategic. And when the time came, it acted with precision. No speeches, no statements. Just documents, the kind that end things quietly but permanently. With those papers, the palace stripped away the last threads connecting Meghan and Harry's children to royal status. No titles, no succession rights, no mention in the official records. Archie and Lilibet aren't rebels. They are not royal exiles. They are simply outsiders, children who will grow up in California, loved by their parents but absent from royal history. And that absence speaks louder than any scandal or interview ever could. Because this final move ends years of whispers, speculation, and media wars with nothing more than the stroke of a pen. The palace chose protocol over personality, legacy over emotion, order over love. For Meghan and Harry, it's devastating. Their entire brand was built on being royal, yet rebellious, insiders who stood apart. But once the crown erases you, you're not a rebel anymore. You're just gone. Archie and Lilibet will grow up surrounded by sunshine, comfort, and love. But the royal archives, the ones that outlast time, will not carry their names. And that silence, that deliberate omission, is colder and more permanent than any public rejection could ever be. This isn't just about 2 children losing titles. It's the monarchy sending a message, calm, quiet, and absolute. The crown does not bend to personalities, not to fame, not to noise. And in that silence, Buckingham Palace has made its coldest move yet.